Right now, too many teams are settling for inferior AI tools, either something they're trying to build themselves or a solution from a vendor that's really two guys in a garage with no experience in property management and what matters to us in this industry. And so by doing so, they tend to leave the actual high risk operational work completely untouched. These are the edges where basic AI breaks down. And so they're settling for good enough. And in an industry with the kind of legal risk that we face and revenue that is dependent on happy residents, turning over operations to the kindergartner of AI software is foolish. So today, we're looking at what happens when an operator refuses to settle. I'm joined by Robert Salwasser, president and co-founder of the Income Property Specialists, with a unique background that's rooted in housing law and 4 decades of boots on the ground experience building a massive Bay Area management firm. Robert is the perfect person to talk to and break down how you move your property management firm away from manual administration and towards true asset value creation by seeking out best in breed AI technology. Let's get into it. Hi, Robert. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks, Daniel. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You have an interesting journey, Robert, and you know we always like to start these off by talking a little bit about how it is you came to be involved in multifamily. So walk us a little bit through that journey, would you?
My background is varied and probably a little different than most others in the industry. This goes back to the late 70s. I was in college, heading off to law school. I worked for the Legal Aid Society of Santa Clara County in their housing unit. This was back in 1979. Rent control came into California and then spread across the country. So the attorneys there said, Robert, you want to be an attorney, go to the rent hearings at night. We don't want to go represent the tenants. And so I did. And I was pretty effective. I had a couple of landlords that could not get a rent increase off of me. They were not happy with me. Okay. Fast forward a little bit, I go off to law school. I don't like it. I'm wondering, why did I choose this profession? I left law school. I'm a law school dropout. Okay. Came back, hung out my shingle as a rent control consultant, called the gentleman that I had represented against, the landlords, right? And they said, Robert, you're hired. I said, fine, I'm not going to go against the tenants that I saved by you not giving them a rent increase, but off we went. Rent control then turned into property tax appeals. They came to me, you raised the rent, can you reduce the expenses? Next thing I know, I'm managing property. So in that sense, I kind of fell into it, and I kind of fell into it from a regulatory background. I am kind of wired like that, probably like many attorneys are, and that just grew over the years.
And to what today? What's your life look like today then, Robert?
A company with over 120 employees turning into an asset management firm. We manage mid-size and larger apartment buildings throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. We literally cover the Bay with that, and a growing company. We brought in a large portfolio in the last few months as well. So we're on track, and I've got a successor in place that will take over as I get more than one step out of the company.
Got it. And how many and product type and generally all multifamily?
We specialize in multifamily. That's what we've got most of the portfolio in, but we picked up 2 shopping centers the other day.
Okay.
We have knowledge and we have experience with other asset types. Typically, they're related to clients that also own apartment buildings. So we've got single family homes for our clients. We've got shopping centers, medical office buildings, storage units. We've got a little of everything.
Wow. Okay. And you're dipping your toe a little bit into AI. That's what you shared with us. What exactly does that mean?
We're starting off slow. We got into it and started making a lot of phone calls, started signing up, but then we decided, you know what, we really need to decide what the end product looks like. And the end product is, how is that going to be valuable for our clients? What's going to be more valuable for us as a company as we build a moat around the company, as Warren Buffett has said? We want to be different and more valuable than our competition, which means higher, greater values of opportunity, of offers that we make to the apartment owners. We're still in a highly regulated area. We've got to be on our toes for everything, which just means we really have to pay attention to not only what the world is throwing at us, how we deal with it, but also make sure that we execute properly. AI doesn't solve all those problems. It probably will at some point as the machines start to learn with other machines and just pull from the internet and the outside world what others have written, thought, believe, remember,
Yeah.
right? So we see this changing the world, right? And so it's not future tech. AI is just going to be a part of every company's infrastructure, and there's just no way around it. We don't want to go all in and make mistakes. We've taken classes, my partner and I, and we've learned, and we learned quickly in the class because we started with ChatGPT 4.6, and off we go to 5.1, and off we go from there, and it's just the world is spinning on the speed of what's happening. So when we get involved with AI, it's for a very specific problem that we want to solve, and then we want to be very clear on what that solution, what that end product, that final report looks like. Is it valuable to a client? Will we be able to take action from it? And as AI moves into agentic AI in the real estate industry, AI will be doing that for us. And there are examples of that happening now. But as we move forward, we're not looking to replace everybody in the company with AI robots. What we are looking is where can we supplement them? What we're taking them away from is the rote tasks that a computer can do, and more into the judgment, the decision making, the relationship, the value creation.
That makes sense. I think that's a great place to start. And by the way, we may touch on this. I think long term, even humans need to occupy that space you just talked about, no matter how much one has adopted AI. I think that space about judgment is a good placeholder for what we kind of call human in the loop. But in the meantime, what is the first thing that you guys have decided? Okay, there's value here. We believe there's a clear deliverable where we can see return on investment.
The first thing that we're dipping our toes into, and we're touching a little of everything with the company, from delinquencies to evictions to automating that. But right now, we're looking at reporting functions and reporting functions that we could send to the client. Every client that we've ever dealt with likes a narrative with their report, and it's great. We can do it. It just burns a lot of time. So do we want to sit in front of a computer typing, or would we rather be making decisions, being out at the properties, talking to others to see what's out there to increase the value of the property? So what we're looking at now is weekly reports, monthly reports, and as we move more as a company institutional, more family offices, the reporting requirements are different than a mom and pop operator. And it's really taking a look at those reports. What are the key performance indicators that we should be tracking, and what do they point to? What's literally, what do we need to do to improve it? Okay. Yeah, reporting doesn't tell you that. It just gives you the opportunity to discover it.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if in this process you have discovered there are KPIs or insights that you now can provide that used to prove too unwieldy or just too much time. You've got a bunch of owners you need to provide reports for. You can't dive deep on everyone. Have you found that with AI supporting you, you can now provide a different level of insights?
We can, because we're taking a look at different metrics now that are being created for us, that we don't have to go into a spreadsheet and create on our own, which just saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
And it also opens up opportunities to see those metrics where we may not have been able to track them before. For an example, economic occupancy, right? 100% of the rent, maybe $15,000 a month. You might be at 95% occupancy, but when you look at your economic occupancy, you've got delinquencies and people in eviction. You may be only bringing in 80% of that 100% of rent you could be doing. Okay. A different, more thorough, more valuable way to look at it. But economic occupancy isn't necessarily something that's built into the PMSs, into the property management systems. It's something that you've got to extract and build on your own. Here comes AI. No, we'll figure it out for you. Here it is on a weekly basis.
So that's using AI to take your existing team and allow them to deliver more value to clients. How are you thinking? You mentioned earlier, you sort of alluded to this, that you weren't thinking about it in terms of as replacing staff or maybe cost cutting. You were thinking about it as a growth lever. Talk a little bit about that. Where do you see the points in the organization where AI now gives you leverage that you didn't have?
Right now, I've got an individual staff member that tracks collections and evictions for us, right? And we're getting weekly reports, and we're looking at trend lines that the amount of delinquency is coming down. The Bay Area really took a hit during COVID, and the local jurisdictions here were not kind to landlords. I've had clients that still are owed $500,000 from COVID at that time because tenants simply stopped paying rent,
yeah.
and there wasn't a lot we could do about it, given some of the jurisdictions we're in here in the Bay Area. However, now there's software coming out that we're in conversation with. We're talking to them. This is what we would like to see. What can you do for us? Start small, start with a few properties. But there's software out there on the delinquency that'll send an email, send a text, do a voicemail, AI generated. AI generated voicemail is very sophisticated now. It'll send a reminder a few days before rent is due. Hey, your rent is due. Here's the amount. Here's a reminder.
Yeah.
Do you want offers on how to pay us? We've got Built, we've got Stake, we've got Flex. We want to make it as easy as possible to pay rent. First comes around, today's the day to pay rent. Next day, there goes the AI agent going, we missed it here. If it's in the mail, great, thanks. If you haven't paid us, just a reminder, please pay us.
Yeah,
okay?
Which nobody likes doing that job anyway.
Oh, no. Resident managers don't like the friction. They're the ones that have to live with these people and don't want the remarks. And, some tenants don't appreciate that. Some are in a tough situation, and we get that.
Yeah.
Better to have the machine do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we seem to focus a lot on things that AI can just do faster, more efficient. We forget sometimes it's doing the things that we don't really even want to do in the first place. So, yeah.
And more accurately, here in the Bay Area, I'm probably not exact, but we've got something like 19 different 3-day notices to serve in the different jurisdictions in the Bay Area. That's ripe for inaccuracy and errors from a human individual. No, let the machine do it. The machine says, okay, these tenants live in the city of Oakland, here's the form to use. These are the San Francisco residents. Here's San Jose, here's the other jurisdictions we operate in. We're going to put the right form, we're going to put the data in, we're going to send them an email with a notice. We're automatically going to print to a certain printer in the office those notices, have a body go out and serve them. And after the certain time period has elapsed here in California in the different jurisdictions, computer goes, okay, we need to grab the rental agreement, we need to grab the rent ledger, we need to grab everything, we need to bundle it, we need to send it off to the attorney. And it goes to the attorney's portal or the attorney's AI product at some point in the future. And off we go, and we haven't touched it. That's
amazing. Has this reframed how you think about staffing as the company continues to grow?
Absolutely. AI, it certainly has the potential, and it will replace individuals, right?
Yes.
I think we don't need individuals to sit there and scan checks. A computer can just grab the check electronically, do it faster, right, easier, without error.
Yeah. But I imagine, as you think about growth before, there was maybe some formula for every number of owners or every units that we have under asset management. We need X number of more analysts or, whatever the key people are in your organization. And do you see that be able to grow now with that remaining flat?
A couple of things need to happen. So we're taking it slow. The first thing we need to make sure is, will the software do as it's supposed to do, as we expect? It's got to be tested,
Yes,
right?
right.
I don't need Oakland residents getting the San Francisco forms. No, 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 no. That don't do that to me, right?
Yeah.
But what we need to do, it's incumbent on us to go back to the individuals that are working for us, have an obligation to them going, okay, you're really good at filling out forms and getting them done, and you're 97% accurate, okay? We're going to go to 100% accurate. And now what we're going to be teaching you and taking your skill is your relationships, how you talk to people, the conversations, build upon your ability to really execute and really get that in your DNA, that it really is all about the execution. It's nice to tell a client, yeah, we'll take care of it. It's another thing to say, we've already taken care of it. Here's the result, right? And it's the decision making. And that requires me trying to get over 40 years of property management out of my head and distribute it to my key team players, and for them to have those ongoing conversations with staff on, here's what's valuable now. It's a shift in mindset. It's also a shift in just how they view their job, right? They're not technicians, they're not admins, they're analysts, they're decision makers. They're out in the community finding out what's available, what would work better for the client.
So one of the first things you're doing here is you're automating you were talking about the delinquency workflow, kind of end to end. Can that be fully automated at this point, or do you need a human in the loop to make sure that goes off without a hitch?
I don't think a computer is going to be able to bring a new client in. It's going to have to be a personal relationship with the individual. It's going to be based on reputation and referrals from others that have actually spoken with us, that have worked with us, that know us, right? Computers aren't going to be able to do that.
So you're talking about in the sort of in the leasing, resident acquisition motion, right? But up until that tour, what have you guys looked at in terms of automating that process yet, or has that not been something you've tried?
We are dipping our toes into that, and we're dipping our toes into leasing. Every PMS, every property management software has got their own capabilities. You've got outside companies like Elise AI that have really gone forward and kind of lead the AI world in that realm. We're kind of waiting for the technology to get caught up. We're testing it to see what's going to work. Still, there are tenants that want to see and want to view an apartment. They want a human. Others don't want a human there. They want to be left alone, like on a used car lot. Please don't bother me. I just want to look at the cars so I can afford, right?
Yes. Right.
So it's that capability, and it's finding out what is the capability. Is that valuable to us, and will it be more effective than what we're doing, right? Because if the AI is closing, 82% of the prospects, and we're closing 70%, you bet we're going to go to the 82 close ratio.
So once you have a resident, once they've had their human interaction, you've convinced them this is the place for their new home. How are you thinking about how AI creates a competitive sort of moat for you now? Is there a way for AI to play a role in retention on the resident side?
There is, because AI can better track when lease renewals are coming up. We're kind of in stage one, in the beginning infancy. We're kind of in kindergarten with leasing in apartment buildings at IC. And I see the next few years we're going to be in grad school with this. Okay.
Oh,
and
that's
the
a great
difference
analogy.
is that, and the difference now is that, okay, tenants log on, they see the apartment they want, they can log on, they can set a calendar, they can check a date. Staff shows up for them if they want a live body to do that. They fill out an application online. The computer system checks their credit. It takes a look at their application. It prepares the lease document and all the addendums we've got here in the Bay Area, and off it goes to the tenant for electronic signature. We get it back. It's automatically stored in our software. We are Yardi users and have been for probably more than 30 years.
Oh.
And that's fine with the technology. However, when you get into grad school, what you're doing you're getting a prospect and the software is coming back to you, Robert, this tenant came to you from this ILS, from this internet listing service. They can do that now, but what's different now, what grad school will do for us. They'll go, they looked at these 3 other apartment complexes, and here's the offer we suspect they're getting, or here's the offers that are being presented publicly, right? Can't go behind the public anymore.
No, better not.
The public front of rent, better not, correct. So here's where they're looking from. Here's where they came from, right? So here we are in apartments.com. We see they're looking at 3 other complexes. 2 of them are even not in your area. And so it just leads to different information and that. And it can go out and find, okay, more and more the AI will also confirm that it's not a fraudulent activity, which is what we ran into with COVID, right?
Yeah.
And they'll go in and tap into ADP or Paychecks or whoever, make sure that that's the income they're actually earning, not that phony pay stub because they grabbed a logo from Google and claim they make $450 a year, when the $450 a week is what they're actually making. So it provides those other opportunities as well. So you'll not only see where they're coming from and what they're looking at and what those prices are, the AI will also go, okay, let's change your marketing. Let's get in front of these tenants that are looking at these other properties. Let's get ahead of the line with them, right? And right now there is a conversation going on in the industry that the largest suppliers of apartment buildings will have their own ILS, and a large ABC property management company can come into our system and go, hey, IPS, this tenant wants to move in one of our buildings. What can you tell me? I mean, can we see that they were paying on time, that they're good tenants, that we don't see any charges against their security deposit? And so those internet listing services are not going to be just the sole keeper of that data, of that information, right? It's going to be the operators dealing directly, because now we have the capability and the software to do it.
Yeah, a lot easier to talk to that data and get the insights on the resident by resident basis that you're looking for. So now post move in, AI is now starting to handle a lot of resident communications. You mentioned one example earlier, like, hey, your rent is due. But there's other examples. Do you feel like residents are ready to have an AI reach out and talk to them, and without feeling like some degradation of service?
The chatbots and really the telephone exchange with AI agents, I'm amazed at how sophisticated they are. That you could joke with an AI agent over the phone, and they get the corny joke and they'll laugh, appropriately, and they'll come back with their own silly joke back. I mean, it's got that capability, as well as going in and finding, hey, if you didn't like the 2-bedroom, what about the 1-bedroom? With AI, once the tenant's in place, not only is it advantageous, and there are companies now that are trying to do predictive maintenance. Okay, we see that this refrigerator is coming up on 12 years. Look, warning, you may have an issue with this. But aside from that, what we see it valuable for, it'll keep track of the tenant's rent, the rent payments, alert. Okay, we've noticed that this tenant is getting further and further behind in paying the rent. They pay it. We see it in the report that the rent is paid. However, it went from the 1st to the 3rd to the 7th now, right?
Yeah.
And alert you to that. And it can get a hold of the tenants at certain time periods, 90 days, issue a renewal offer, 60 days, 45, 30 days. It's just more effective to maintain that conversation and get started with the renewal process.
Yeah. Well, I think there's no doubt about that in terms of on the efficiency side. I'm thinking more from the residents, from the emotional impact. Do you think residents care deeply or not at all that they're getting the information they want and they're getting prompted to do things they need to do by an AI that sounds like a person but isn't?
More and more of the conversation with our tenants is done over the phone by text, right?
Yeah.
And a chatbot can do that quicker, easier, do it 24/7, right? So the technology is kind of in place for that move over it. But I really think the bottom line, just like our clients, is you got to solve my problem, Robert. You've got to execute. If I have a question, if I have a work order that I need to put in, You need to acknowledge it. You need to act on it. You need to get it done, right? So we're going back to that whole human issue of execution. And it's where a lot of companies, a lot of tradespeople that we see, they just kind of fail at that. And I've got a client overseas, and he says, Robert, one of the issues we have with Americans is you guys just don't think enough about execution. And that really rung a bell with me. And so that is a theme of IPS. You got to get it done, and you got to do it well and do it right the first time, please.
Yeah. Well, we've seen, for example, you were talking about work orders and we have seen technicians be forced into this role to be therapists, for the residents, data
Right.
entry clerks, right? When they need tool time is what they need. Where are you on thinking about how AI steps in and handles the maintenance coordination piece of all of that? Have you guys played with anything on that front yet?
We have tried some have worked, some we're trying to work with now. We're always looking for something better, dipping our toes into it. But in regards to maintenance, I mean, the AI solutions that are coming out now is they know and learn who is the quickest guy that can do cabinetry repairs in your portfolio of maintenance guys.
Yes.
We see this, we can track it. He's the best. He's got 5-star reviews on everything he touches on kitchen cabinets. Send him.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of brain power and a lot of knowledge and a lot of things somebody would need to keep in their head. Let the computer do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a combination of the knowledge of who the right guy for the job is. And, it's just a combination of, you sort of alluded to this earlier, tradespeople are not always super responsive. They're busy. They got a lot of people that want them, like just being persistent about trying to get the work scheduled and coordinating with the resident. A lot of that is the work that is the gap between a successful resident experience and one that's frustrating and ends up with churn, I think.
And what the AI has capability of, it speaks many languages where our people don't.
Yes.
Right? And so, many times it's just an issue of communication where the breakdown happens. I've picked up the phone years ago when I was a much smaller company and somebody say, hey, Robert, my toilet's overflowing. I go, okay, great. Who are you? Where are you? Well, I'm in the apartment building in San Jose. Okay, great. What's your address? What apartment are you in? Right? And that's just stuff that it's just a matter of communication with people. And then, finding out the toilet's overflowing. Okay, do you know where the shutoff valve is underneath the toilet? Can you just twist it and shut the water off so it's not overflowing and going to the poor tenant below you, right? And that's just a lot of that the AI knows to ask that. And now these maintenance AI solutions, they'll actually put together a video and send it to the tenant's phone. All right, here's the quick video on where the turn-off valve is on your toilet, and just shut it off and problem solved. And we're sending a guy very knowledgeable in this to your apartment. Expected time to be there is between 1 and 3 o'clock this afternoon. Done.
Yeah, that's right. And that example, you could be saving yourself literally millions of dollars in damages by prompting the resident to shut that water off.
Right.
Yeah. We see on the Vendoroo side, we see about 10% of the work order calls come in, get resolved right out of the gate with simple fixes that the residents can undertake themselves.
Right.
And that's part of the value proposition too, is like, geez, can we get work orders done without technicians ever or vendors ever touching the work order?
And many tenants would be more than happy to do it. They just don't want somebody coming in their apartment, right? They've got pets, they've got children napping. No, teach me how to turn the water off and I'll do it myself, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll make arrangements when you come in when the baby's awake.
What are your...
Good. Now,
yeah, sorry, go ahead, Robert.
No, now we're doing our job. We're taking care of the tenant, we're doing it professionally, and we're getting the job done for the client. That's just what I was going to complete.
Right. What are your larger expectations when you are talking to your owner clients and you say, look, we're going to be implementing these AI processes. We're going to put, a maintenance AI in place that's going to do these things you were just talking about. What are you representing as the realistic outcomes of all of these? What your ROI, whether it's a number or if it's another kind of outcome, what are you describing to people right now? What are your expectations are from dipping your toe in all? You have a lot of toes, by the way, but dipping all your toes in these different waters.
It really is to maximize the value of the property. You typically do that. Now, we can't control the value. If cap rates fly up because interest rates are flying up, the world is happening around us, right? However, we need to continue to keep a look on growing revenue, right? Just because of inflation. Many of our clients are older. This is their retirement income. It's incumbent on us to figure out a way, how do we grow their income that they can get more money and stay ahead of inflation just on a personal level. So it becomes very personal on the care to be given. And that's a different conversation than just we collect the rents and pay the bills for you, right? So what we're looking for that in the conversation is, if it can be done cheaper, faster, all of the clients care about their tenants. They want to make sure that they're happy. They want to make sure that they stay in place, right, and don't damage the property, don't create problems. That, as I tell my staff, you want tenants that play well with others. They don't run with scissors, right? So that's the same thing that the owner wants, right? And they want the consistency with that, and you get the consistency and you get the higher cash flow. One of the biggest expenses is just it's maintenance, it's turnover costs, right? And it's money that you'll never really recover, right? So that's important. And if there are tools we can use that solve that core problem, make more money now and in the future, that's what we want. That's the conversation we want to have with our clients as to why we're doing this. Now, let me just add that it's aggravating on my part as an owner of an asset management firm. Everybody in the world wants to do subscription as a service, wants to be a SaaS company. And what happens is quickly, you get all these tech stacks coming at you from these different AI companies, and pretty soon everybody's making money but the owner and the property management company. But you're solving problems, but the money's not there. So it's a balance of, is it a worthwhile investment? Will we get a return on it? What problems will it solve? What can we take our time doing on the next level to push that property even more forward in terms of its income capability?
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, those are some great thoughts, Robin. What I'm wondering is, and I don't mean to put you on the spot if you haven't really thought through this, but it would be wonderful for people considering going on the journey that you've already started, is, have you established a benchmark by which you can measure the improvement that AI has led through its implementation? In other words, a before on work order response times versus after, or before on resident satisfaction renewals versus after. Is any of that stuff being codified?
I don't think we've had enough time to take a look at it and get a real trend line or a real figure on that. Because when we're starting new software, we typically like to do it with a couple of properties, a certain number of units, and roll it out, making sure that it works. So honestly, Dan, we just don't have enough time. Seat of the pants tell us it's the right move to make.
Yeah. By the way, I think that's probably why a lot of people are currently putting their own individual toes in the water. Is there is something at the surface of it that's like, yes, of course we need to do this. When we talk about maintenance at Vendoroo, we talk about relieving the technicians. When there's not vendors in place, when there's on-site technicians, relieving them of the burden of having to do all these other things to coordinate and triage incoming work orders, right? But it's hard to come up with an ROI for that. But it just sort of like, you just know on the surface of it, my team's better off and paying more attention to what they do best if they're not dealing with the admin detritus, right? So a lot of, I think, decisions to adopt AI are being made on that presumption right now.
So it's been known in the industry for years that the number one reason tenants move out is they just don't feel they're being heard, and that's typically with maintenance. You're not keeping the place clean. You're not taking care of them from a maintenance standpoint. So we look like we're gaining when we get those 5-star reviews from the tenants, and we will ask them. And AI can automate this as well, can send a text to the tenant and go, look, Joe was in your unit yesterday doing this for you in your apartment. On a scale of 1 to 5, how satisfied are you? Was he polite? Was he Did he leave your apartment clean? If you asked him to do another project while he was there, did he respond appropriately, and did he take care of it for you? That's where you find, because if tenants aren't happy with the maintenance of the property and that's the reason they're leaving, then getting a lot of 5-star reviews leads us to indicate that that may not be a top factor for renewal. We're in the Bay Area. People come and go with jobs all the time, right? And depending on the unit mix of the property, studios are going to have greater turnover than a 3-bedroom, in a large apartment building in a great school district, right? They're going to be with you for years. So it's all those other factors involved with that. But you need to pick, what are the problems that you really need to execute on? What's it look like, the final project, when you've done it well? And how do you prove to yourself that you're doing it well? And we go back to the tenant reviews and recommendations.
Yeah, that's one metric. That's one metric you can look at right away. Well, Robert, I think you've done a really fantastic job here in lining out for folks that are considering or have heard that AI is being adopted in property management. How is it being adopted? Why is it being adopted? You've done a great job at laying out how your firm has been thinking about that. And I hope people will listen through this whole podcast and take good notes, because that's everything you've said is every reason that AI is taking off right now. If there was, in closing thoughts, if there was one thing, one next step you would suggest for anybody out there who's considering adopting AI, what would it be?
The world is moving in that direction, and I think, as I may have stated at the beginning, it's not future tech anymore. It is being a required infrastructure and part of your business. You've got to have it, because more and more you will not have a solution that doesn't include AI at some point. And yeah, there's a number of vendors out there. Look at me, I've got AI. No, that's really not AI. You're putting lipstick on a pig. But the world is moving in that direction. And it's something that you're just going to embrace. You can't be left behind with it. Whether you're a single owner of an apartment building, or you've got a portfolio, or you're an institution, don't deny what the trend is.
Right. It does seem, it's like Thanos, seems a little inevitable. However, can I double click on something you just said? I think correctly identified, there are some folks selling out what is called AI out there, which is really, in your words, lipstick on a pig. How do people discern? Have you figured out what the litmus test is for a company that's delivering real AI versus just a fancy demo?
It's difficult, and I think you've got to know and be somewhat educated on what AI can and can't do, the difference between generative and agentic AI, that which just describes what's currently happened and regurgitates it back to you, or puts it in a different form, or pulls from different sources, and agentic, like sending out notices on three-day notices to pay rent or quit here in California, that's agentic, that actually takes action. And I think you need enough that if the software solves your problem, then I guess it really doesn't matter if it's AI or not. But AI will have a capability to do things, pull from more sources, to give you greater insight faster, and also take care of rote tasks that you're doing by yourself or with virtual agents or whatever. It can be sometimes difficult if you're not familiar with the background of AI. So what everybody in property management and asset management, in multifamily marketing, they've got to get familiar with AI. They just have to go there.
Yeah, and the two things you just mentioned are a good place to start, which is understanding the difference between generative AI and agentic AI that can do work on your behalf. Yeah. Well, that's a great place to wrap up here, Robert. This has been a really very interesting discussion to hear how you and your firm, you've been leading your firm into this realm. And I really thank you for your time. It's been great.
Thank you, Daniel. Happy to join you today.
Right on. Take care.
Thanks.